The human stepped into the grand hall of the matriarch with a mixture of awe and mild confusion. The place was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Floating platforms crisscrossed above luminous pools of liquid that shimmered with shifting colors, crystal spires reached impossibly high, and every surface pulsed softly with alien light. Rows upon rows of alien women lined the central dais, each more breathtaking than the last. Their skin glowed with subtle iridescence, their eyes sparkled like embedded jewels, and their gestures carried an elegance he wasn't even sure he could comprehend. Some of them had multiple arms, others had ethereal wings, and a few had tendrils tipped with glowing orbs that quivered in time with the soft hum of the room. He could feel the subtle pull of pheromones, not overpowering but enough to make his senses tingle, almost like standing under a waterfall of faint perfume mixed with electricity. The matriarch herself appeared on the central platform, her presence instantly commanding the attention of everyone in the room. She was tall, with iridescent skin that shifted colors like a liquid rainbow when she moved, her eyes radiating intelligence and authority. Her voice was calm but powerful as she addressed him. "Human, you may choose any woman." The words echoed through the hall, reverberating with a strange resonance that made even the human's limited vocabulary feel inadequate. Everyone expected him to pick the most extraordinary, genetically perfected models. The kind of women who seemed sculpted from light and allure, who would make any being gasp with envy. He scanned the line of options, each more dazzling than the last, and the court collectively held its breath. And then he saw her. She wasn't adorned in jewels, her robes weren't gleaming, and her hair was slightly messy, as if she had just rolled out of a nap. Her eyes, however, sparkled with a mischievous glint, and her lips twitched with the faintest hint of a smirk. Unlike the others, she wasn't making herself look perfect, wasn't trying to impress anyone, yet somehow she radiated a sense of confidence and amusement that drew him in instantly. He felt a strange pull toward her, a combination of curiosity and instinct he couldn't quite explain. When the matriarch finally gestured for him to speak, he didn't hesitate. "I choose you," he said, pointing directly at the unassuming, smirking figure. Silence blanketed the hall for a fraction of a second before it exploded into audible gasps. Every other woman in the line stiffened, whispering and muttering in languages he couldn't comprehend. Some looked affronted, some confused, and a few seemed genuinely scandalized. The matriarch herself froze, her eyes widening in shock, clearly unprepared for such a choice. The woman he had chosen blinked once, then tried to hide a laugh, failing spectacularly when it slipped into a small snort. The sound was faint, almost musical, and carried a subtle vibration that made him feel a jolt of surprise. She had not expected to be chosen, not like this, not publicly, but the gleam in her eyes revealed she was already plotting the chaos that would surely follow. She leaned slightly forward, as if daring him to realize just what he had gotten himself into. He took a careful step toward her, trying to maintain a posture of dignity and composure, though his knees felt unusually stiff. When he bowed slightly, she returned it, but instead of a simple bow, she added a small psychic jolt that sent a ripple through his spine. He staggered forward slightly, embarrassed, but assumed it was some formal custom of her people. Around them, whispers grew louder, some curious, some scandalized, all fixated on the audacity of his choice. It became clear almost immediately that this woman was unlike anyone else in the hall. Where the others tried to impress with elegance and grandeur, she relied on subtle mischief, an unspoken confidence, and a kind of playful energy that felt entirely different from the formal tension surrounding them. Every small gesture, every twitch of her hand or flicker of her eyes seemed calculated to test him, provoke him, and see how he would respond. He was unaware that she had made a habit of embarrassing visiting humans, turning formal rituals into spectacles of hilarity for her own amusement. Despite the absurdity of the situation, he felt a strange thrill. He wasn't just choosing a partner from a lineup of the perfect and polished. He was choosing someone who might challenge him, amuse him, and maybe even make him laugh in ways he hadn't experienced before. His choice drew the attention of everyone in the hall, but instead of feeling intimidated, he felt strangely confident. There was something compelling about her defiance of expectations, something magnetic about the way she seemed to own the space without even trying. Even as he straightened his posture, attempting to appear composed, he noticed the tiny smirk that lingered on her face, a quiet, almost imperceptible curve that promised chaos and laughter in equal measure. She stepped slightly toward him, and the soft ripple of her movement caused a subtle shift in the pheromones around them, making his heart rate spike for reasons he didn't fully understand. His mind raced with curiosity and anticipation, though he couldn't articulate why he felt such a pull toward her. The court murmurs continued, and the matriarch's gaze remained fixed on the unexpected choice, her expression oscillating between disbelief and silent calculation. The energy in the hall was tense yet electric, charged with the anticipation of what would come next. The human remained calm, at least outwardly, while internally he felt a mix of excitement, confusion, and a strange sense of rightness. In that moment, he realized that whatever followed, whatever rituals, tests, or pranks this alien woman had planned, he was ready. He didn't know the rules, didn't understand the customs fully, and certainly had no idea about the chaos she could unleash. But he knew he wanted her, chosen not for status, not for perfection, but because there was something entirely, unreasonably magnetic about the one who dared to defy expectation and laugh at the absurdity of it all. And judging by the sparkle in her eyes and the quiet curve of her lips, she was already planning just how far that chaos would go. He swallowed nervously, glanced at the matriarch, then back at her, and felt a mix of thrill and trepidation. The first step had been taken, and the stage was set for a collision of human sincerity and alien mischief unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human followed her through the glittering corridors of the palace, trying to keep pace with her confident stride while keeping his own dignity intact. The air hummed with the subtle vibration of alien energy, and the walls glowed faintly, casting shifting colors across the floating platforms beneath their feet. He could feel the tug of pheromones in every direction, each alien around them radiating subtle signals that made his skin tingle and his stomach do little flips he didn't understand. Meanwhile, she walked as if she owned the place, glancing back at him with a smirk that promised trouble. He couldn't shake the feeling that she had some hidden agenda, though the warmth in her eyes suggested it wasn't entirely malicious. Their first ritual was called the synchronization dance, a courtly tradition where pairs were expected to move in perfect harmony, mirroring each other's gestures while circulating through glowing platforms suspended above pools of bioluminescent liquid. He had no idea what he was doing, his limbs stiff and uncertain, while she moved with fluid grace. As soon as he stepped onto the first platform, she flicked her wrist subtly, releasing a tiny pulse of psychic energy that caused him to start moving uncontrollably, arms flailing in ways that made the audience gasp and murmur. Somehow, every misstep he made landed him in the center of attention, turning what was supposed to be a dignified dance into a comical spectacle of human incompetence. She bit back a laugh, though her shoulders shook slightly, betraying her amusement. When he glanced at her, trying to regain his composure, she winked slyly, and another subtle psychic pulse caused him to spin into a perfect, unplanned somersault. He landed face down on the next platform, knees skidding, and the audience erupted with gasps and laughter. He scrambled to stand, cheeks burning red, and she extended a hand, helping him up with the gentlest touch that sent a ripple through him he couldn't explain. Next came the public declaration of affection. This ritual required the human to speak aloud his admiration and intentions in front of the assembled court, a practice designed to demonstrate sincerity, eloquence, and emotional resonance. As he opened his mouth to speak, she discreetly enchanted his vocal cords. Suddenly, every phrase he said emerged in exaggerated poetic form, punctuated with accidental compliments to passing alien dignitaries. "O radiant one with glimmering antennae, your gaze pierces the very fabric of my mortal soul," he cried, horrified, as the crowd gasped and murmured in shock. She tried desperately to stifle her laughter, covering her mouth with her hand while biting her lip. The third ritual was the touch of trust ceremony, where each pair placed a hand on a glowing orb that linked their bioenergies, supposedly to measure compatibility. When he touched the orb, she injected a minor prank, harmless, but entirely unexpected. A sudden surge of warmth and tingling shot through him, causing him to jolt, gasp, and inadvertently grab her arm in panic. She yelped in mock indignation, though her eyes sparkled with mirth, and the energy feedback made him blush like an entire galaxy was watching. He had no idea that every subtle misfire, every unexpected jolt, was carefully orchestrated by her to make the ceremony amusing rather than formal. He tried to maintain composure, straightening his back and attempting to bow politely after each mishap, but the audience was already in uproar. Alien spectators were clutching their heads, some fainting, some gasping in disbelief at the human's lack of coordination, and a few seemed positively enchanted by the unpredictability of the performance. Meanwhile, she leaned in occasionally, whispering teasing words in his ear that caused his face to flush further, blending embarrassment and unexpected attraction into one overwhelming sensation. By the time they reached the shared mind meditation, a mental synchronization meant to align their emotional states, the human was exhausted, confused, and more than a little overwhelmed. She leaned close, her face inches from his, and connected their minds with a subtle psychic link. Immediately, he found his thoughts flooded with absurd visions, himself as a heroic interstellar chef, juggling glowing pastries while defending dignitaries from imagined space pirates. He muttered narrations aloud, describing impossible feats and heroic deeds in ways that made the gathered court burst into laughter, applause, and occasional fainting. She fought to maintain composure, barely containing giggles as she guided him through the meditation while simultaneously turning every potential intimate moment into a hilarious spectacle. Each ritual, meant to demonstrate skill, sincerity, and compatibility, became a series of escalating disasters that highlighted the human's earnestness and her mischievous creativity. He could not understand why he was flustered, why his body responded so strongly to her proximity, or why each minor touch made his heart race. She, for her part, was discovering that his genuine reactions were far more delightful than she anticipated, that his sincerity and oblivious charm made him an irresistible target for both pranks and affection. By the end of the day, the human was exhausted, slightly bruised, and glowing faintly from repeated pheromone exposure, but he had survived the rituals intact, if not gracefully. She watched him, her smirk softening into a genuine smile, the kind that promised more chaos, laughter, and perhaps something deeper. Every prank she had played, every ritual mishap, had created a rhythm between them, a strange dance of comedy and attraction that neither had expected. As the hall quieted for the final assessment of the day, he glanced at her, still uncertain about every custom, every gesture, yet wholly captivated. She winked, a silent promise that tomorrow would bring even greater trials, even more unexpected disasters, and perhaps a few stolen moments of genuine connection amidst the chaos. He smiled nervously in return, unaware that this combination of alien absurdity, psychic pranks, and awkward sincerity was exactly the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted, but both would find entirely irresistible. The next morning, the human awoke with a dull ache in his muscles and a lingering glow from the pheromones that had surrounded him the day before. He tried to recall the details of the rituals, but his memory was a foggy jumble of accidental somersaults, poetic declarations, and moments where he had inexplicably been holding the wrong dignitary's hand. Despite the confusion, he felt a strange anticipation as he stepped out into the palace courtyard, where the air shimmered with alien energy and the floating gardens released bursts of luminous pollen that swirled like miniature galaxies. She was already there, leaning casually against the hovering crystal railing, her arms crossed and a mischievous glint in her eyes. He could feel his pulse quicken despite himself. Something about her confidence made him both nervous and inexplicably calm. They were led to the next set of rituals, the floating walk and the bioluminescent exchange, designed to test balance, trust, and emotional openness. He had seen her smile faintly as they approached the first floating platform, a warning he didn't quite understand. The moment his feet touched the translucent surface, she activated a subtle gravity fluctuation beneath his shoes. His legs wobbled uncontrollably, sending him spinning like a leaf caught in a solar wind. He flailed, arms windmilling in a desperate attempt to maintain balance, narrowly avoiding a plunge into the glowing pools below. She clapped softly, stifling her laughter, and he caught a glimpse of her smirk just before another jolt sent him stumbling into her orbit. She reached out, steadying him with the lightest of touches, and in that instant, he felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through his chest. It wasn't just the proximity. It was the combination of her subtle mischief, the playful glint in her eyes, and the way she leaned close enough for him to catch the faint scent of her pheromones. Every time he tried to speak, she whispered teasing comments that made him blush and stammer, further fueling the laughter of the alien onlookers. The court erupted into whispers and exclamations as he accidentally bowed to the wrong dignitaries, nearly knocked over floating lanterns, and uttered a string of poetic compliments to passing statues. Next was the bioluminescent exchange, where participants were supposed to share symbolic energy pulses that represented trust and vulnerability. As he reached toward her, she subtly shifted the frequencies, causing him to feel an odd mixture of excitement and mild embarrassment. His voice cracked in mid-sentence, and a ripple of glowing particles erupted from the orb, enveloping them both in a shimmering haze. The audience gasped, some fainting from overstimulation, while others gawked in astonishment at the unintentional display of human emotional transparency. She fought to maintain a straight face, but each of his flustered reactions sent her into quiet, suppressed giggles that she could not completely hide. During the shared mind meditation that followed, her playful interference reached its peak. She sent fleeting images of absurd scenarios into his thoughts, himself as a heroic interstellar chef balancing flaming desserts, battling imaginary alien invaders, and reciting exaggerated love poetry to a hall full of startled dignitaries. He narrated everything aloud, unaware that each ridiculous comment only intensified the court's reactions. Some dignitaries fainted, some blushed violently, and one elderly matron began clapping in astonishment, thinking his improvisation was an avant-garde artistic display. She laughed outright this time, her eyes sparkling with delight at the chaos she had orchestrated. Despite all the disruptions, he adapted remarkably well. His genuine attempts to follow the rituals, combined with his flustered sincerity, created a strange rhythm between them. Every prank she played, every unexpected jolt, every wardrobe misfire, became an opportunity for them to share moments of unintended intimacy. When he stumbled and she caught him, their faces would be inches apart, and he would feel that peculiar flutter in his chest. When he attempted a compliment, and it came out as nonsense poetry, she would respond with laughter and a teasing touch, further binding them together in a mix of embarrassment and amusement. As the rituals continued, they moved to the ceremonial banquet, where alien delicacies emitted colorful pheromones intended to enhance attraction and rapport. She whispered instructions that sent him grabbing the wrong utensil, spilling glowing sauces onto dignitaries, and loudly praising the wrong dishes. Each blunder sparked a new round of laughter, both from the court and from themselves. He began to realize that he didn't need to impress her with flawless performance or cultural understanding. The chaos itself was a conduit for connection. Every mishap became a shared joke, every awkward stumble a chance for laughter, and every accidental touch a reminder of the chemistry simmering beneath the surface. By the end of the day, the human was exhausted, physically and emotionally drained, yet exhilarated. He had survived the trials, navigated pranks, and endured bizarre rituals with a mix of courage and confusion. She observed him with a smile that had softened from mischief into something warmer, recognizing that beneath his blundering exterior was a human who genuinely cared, who laughed with her rather than against her, and who responded to her chaos with an unguarded sincerity she had not anticipated. They shared a quiet moment at the balcony overlooking the floating gardens, catching their breath as the alien courtiers continued to murmur below. She leaned slightly toward him, and for the first time, her teasing eyes softened, hinting at a genuine interest beyond amusement. He looked at her, realizing that despite all the mishaps, the pranks, and the absurdity, he was enjoying this more than he ever thought possible. He didn't just admire her cleverness and playful spirit, he felt drawn to her in a way that transcended the chaos surrounding them. As the alien sun set, casting iridescent streaks across the palace and gardens, they laughed quietly together, the sound mingling with the soft hum of the city. Each giggle, each shared glance, and each subtle brush of hands was a small victory against the absurdity of the rituals, a building block of trust, and a spark of something more intimate. By the time they departed the balcony, The rhythm of their relationship had begun to take shape, a blend of laughter, chaos, and chemistry that neither of them could have predicted, but both had already begun to crave. The final ceremony was unlike anything the human had imagined. The grand hall had been transformed into a spectacle of lights, floating platforms, and shimmering pools, all designed to amplify every sensation. Alien dignitaries, courtiers, and even the matriarch herself gathered to witness the culmination of the rituals. The air hummed with anticipation, electric with pheromones, and thick with a tension that made his stomach twist in ways he had never felt. Every glance from her seemed deliberate, a teasing challenge mixed with something softer, something electric that sent his pulse racing. They were led to the central platform, where the ultimate ritual, the amplification of affection, was to take place. Each couple was supposed to channel their feelings into a glowing crystal orb, demonstrating compatibility, trust, and attraction to the assembled audience. He approached the orb, heart hammering, completely unaware that she had already tweaked its properties. The moment he touched it, a surge of energy shot through both of them, magnifying their emotions and broadcasting them psychically to everyone nearby. His embarrassment, attraction, nervousness, and fascination all poured into the air, creating a chaotic wave of feelings that rippled through the crowd. Alien courtiers screamed, fainted, or hugged statues in response to the amplified emotions. Some dignitaries clutched their heads, others blushed violently, and a few simply backed away in horror. He froze, realizing too late that he had done something catastrophic, yet utterly hilarious. She laughed outright, her voice light and musical, and reached for his hand, steadying him. The warmth of her touch, combined with the chaos she had unleashed, sent a thrill through him that was impossible to ignore. He blinked at her, wide-eyed and mortified, but the sparkle in her eyes reassured him that she found the spectacle just as delightful as he did. As the audience reeled, she leaned closer, whispering that every prank, every mishap, and every chaotic moment had been designed to test him, not to humiliate, but to see how he would handle the absurdity of her world. She confessed that she had planned to toy with him endlessly, yet his sincerity, humor, and ability to stay composed amidst the madness had charmed her completely. He listened, stunned, unable to respond at first because of the psychic feedback still coursing through him. When he finally managed to speak, he said simply, "I chose you because you made me laugh. Because I want to be with you, no matter how chaotic it gets." She laughed again, soft and genuine this time, and the sound was like a release of tension, a bridge between chaos and affection. She admitted that she had been secretly testing him, and she had never expected to feel this drawn to a human. Her teasing eyes softened, and the spark of mischief remained, but now it was accompanied by an undeniable warmth. He felt it too, the attraction, the curiosity, the thrill of unpredictability, and the comfort of finding someone who could turn a disaster into shared laughter. As they leaned together over the glowing orb, the psychic feedback continued, but it no longer overwhelmed them. Instead, it felt like a conduit, highlighting the chemistry between them in vivid bursts of color and sensation. Every accidental brush of hands, every shared glance, every small laugh became magnified, drawing them closer. He realized that what had seemed like a series of humiliating or ridiculous moments was actually a perfect courtship, one designed not for appearances but for connection. The matriarch, initially shocked and aghast, watched the spectacle with a mixture of disbelief and grudging approval. The human had survived rituals, pranks, and psychic chaos with a combination of courage, sincerity, and humor. She could see that this pairing, though unconventional and scandalous by every societal standard, had genuine chemistry. Even the courtiers began to relax, laughter turning into smiles and murmurs of admiration for the unlikely human-alien couple. Finally, as the amplified emotions began to fade, they found themselves alone on a balcony overlooking the floating gardens, the city of lights stretching endlessly beneath them. She leaned into him, her head brushing his shoulder, and he felt the warmth of her presence fully for the first time. Her playful mischief had not disappeared. It lingered in the sparkle of her eyes and the curve of her lips. But it was now accompanied by something deeper, trust, affection, and a shared sense of delight in the absurdity of life. They laughed quietly together, the kind of laughter born from relief, embarrassment, and mutual admiration. His earlier awkwardness had melted away, replaced by a growing confidence fueled by the knowledge that she genuinely enjoyed his company, and he genuinely enjoyed hers. Every accidental touch, every mischievous prank, and every chaotic ritual had brought them closer, and the chaos of the day no longer felt intimidating. It felt like the perfect backdrop for something entirely unexpected: love. As the alien sun dipped below the horizon, casting iridescent streaks across the gardens, they held each other close, their foreheads touching. She whispered, teasingly but with sincerity, that next time she would go easier on the pranks. He chuckled, unsure if he believed her, but certain that he wouldn't mind even if she didn't. Together, they turned to watch the city glow, hearts racing and laughter lingering, ready to face whatever absurd, chaotic, and intoxicating adventures awaited them, side by side, partners in mischief, romance, and inevitable laughter.